Ever wondered what it's like to step inside the most powerful plane on Earth? Welcome to the Air Force One, which is basically a mobile Oval Office as well as a global command center at 30,000 feet. So what's really inside this sky palace? And how did it become the most influential aircraft in modern history? Let's climb aboard and find out. The birth of a flying presidency. Air Force One didn't just appear as a luxury 747 overnight. Its story began back in the middle of World War II, when air travel was still risky and unpredictable. In 1943, Franklin D. Roosevelt's advisors were faced with a tough decision: send the president across the Atlantic by ship, risking German U-boats, or take a chance on something bold, the skies. So, FDR boarded the Dixie Clipper, a massive Boeing 314 flying boat, and crossed the ocean to meet Winston Churchill at the secret Casablanca Conference. It was the first time a U.S. president flew on official duty, a defining moment that proved air travel could change diplomacy forever. But the name Air Force One didn't come until a decade later, and it wasn't born out of ceremony, but confusion. In 1953, President Eisenhower's aircraft accidentally crossed paths with a commercial flight sharing the same call sign. That near miss sparked a change from that day forward. Air Force One became the exclusive call sign for any plane carrying the U.S. president. Over the years, the aircraft evolved from humble military transports to purpose-built power symbols. Truman's plane, the Independence, was little more than a modified DC-6. Eisenhower's Columbine 3 added some upgrades, but it was Kennedy's administration that truly transformed presidential aviation into something iconic, a statement of design, diplomacy, and dominance. From that moment, Air Force One stopped being just a plane. It became a stage one that traveled with history itself. Inside the Sky Palace. Most people only see Air Force One from the outside: the gleaming white fuselage, the bold blue stripe, and those iconic words, United States of America. But the real story begins when you step inside. Spread across 3 decks and over 4,000 square feet, Air Force One is designed like a miniature government. The main deck holds the president's private suite, an office, a full conference room, and the nerve center of communications. The upper deck is home to the cockpit and flight crew, while the lower deck houses equipment, cargo, and vital electronics that keep this airborne fortress connected to the world. The president's private quarters sit near the nose of the plane, sleek, secure, and functional. There's a private lavatory, an oval-shaped office, and enough tech to run a nation mid-air. After 9/11, this space was upgraded to serve as a mobile command center, with encrypted lines capable of addressing the entire country from the sky. Let's pause a little now, because we have to give you some good news. We're doing a giveaway for a $200 Amazon gift card when we hit 3,000 subscribers. Make sure to smash that subscribe button and comment below so we know to add you into the raffle. Thanks and best of luck to everyone who enters. Now, back to the story. Right next to the cockpit is the medical suite, staffed by a flight doctor and stocked like a compact hospital, complete with surgical equipment, a defibrillator, and even a supply of the president's own blood type. Behind that, you'll find offices for senior advisors, Secret Service, and the traveling press, though reporters get the short end of the deal. They sit all the way at the back and even pay for their seats, reimbursing the government for every mile flown. And when it comes to dining, Air Force One is unmatched. 2 massive galleys can prepare meals for up to 100 people. The food itself comes from a top-secret kitchen at Joint Base Andrews, vacuum-sealed and flown on board. Everything from steak to sushi can be served. Just don't ask for fries, because no deep fryer on board means they're always a little soggy. Historical moments at 30,000 feet. For all its luxury and legend, Air Force One has also carried the nation's heaviest moments. Some of the most defining events in modern U.S. history took place within its cabin walls. The 22nd of November 1963, the day the world froze, President John F. Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas. His casket was loaded onto SAM 26000, the Boeing 707 that had been custom-built for him just a year earlier. And in a crowded cabin, amid shock and grief, Vice President Lyndon B. Johnson took the oath of office. Jackie Kennedy stood beside him in her blood-stained pink suit, a silent witness to history. It remains the only time a U.S. president was sworn in aboard an aircraft. Years later, another unforgettable moment came in 1974. Richard Nixon boarded Air Force One as president and landed as a private citizen, his resignation taking effect mid-air. The moment the plane lifted off, its call sign changed from Air Force One to SAM 27000. Just like that, power was gone even before the wheels hit the ground. Then there were flights that symbolized new beginnings, like in 2016, when Barack Obama touched down in Havana, becoming the first U.S. president to visit Cuba in 88 years. Decades of Cold War silence seemed to melt the instant those landing gears touched the tarmac. And in 2023, Air Force One embarked on one of its most daring missions, yet President Biden's secret flight into a war zone. Under cover of night, he flew into Poland and then continued to Kiev, Ukraine, aboard an armored train. It was the first presidential visit to an active conflict zone without U.S. military control on the ground, a mission shrouded in secrecy, precision, and risk. Each of these moments proves one thing: transportation is the secondary purpose of Air Force One. It's mainly a stage for history, a place where power, courage, and leadership are tested at 30,000 feet. The look that defined power. When most people picture Air Force One, they think of that clean blue and white livery, simple, elegant, and instantly recognizable anywhere in the world. But that look wasn't just designed for aesthetics. It was carefully chosen to project calm, authority, and confidence. When John F. Kennedy took office in 1961, he wanted a plane that would send a message. So, he called in Raymond Loewy, one of the greatest industrial designers of the 20th century, the man behind the Shell logo and Coca-Cola's classic machines. Together with First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy, Loewy created something timeless: a soft blue top, a white underbelly, and that bold United States of America stretched across the fuselage in capital letters. It was minimalist, but it radiated dignity and strength. Interestingly, that design became so influential that other countries quietly copied it. From France to Japan, several nations repainted their own presidential aircrafts with similar layouts: white, blue, gold trims, bold lettering, the look of authority, inspired by Air Force One. It wasn't just America's plane anymore. It became a design language for leadership itself. Of course, not every president agreed it should stay the same. Donald Trump, for instance, proposed a dramatic redesign red, white, and navy, inspired by his private 757. It was flashy, patriotic, and undeniably bold. But there was a catch. The Air Force engineers ran tests and found that darker paint would absorb more heat, potentially forcing millions in cooling upgrades to protect onboard electronics. In other words, the aesthetic choice could literally overheat the most powerful plane on Earth. So, the original stayed not just for tradition, but because it works. Air Force One's look isn't just about paint. It's about presence, the kind that lands in foreign capitals and instantly says, "The President of the United States has arrived." A secure fortress in the sky. Now, let's peel back the curtain on Air Force One's security, because this isn't just a plane, it's a floating command post built to survive the unimaginable. Every inch of this aircraft is fortified. The fuselage is hardened against electromagnetic pulses, meaning that if a nuclear blast knocked out electronics on the ground, Air Force One could still fly, communicate, and command. The wiring and systems are shielded inside layers of protective mesh and insulation, turning the jet into something closer to a flying bunker. Then there's the defense tech. Missile warning sensors constantly scan the skies, ready to deploy countermeasures, flares, chaff, and radar jammers at a moment's notice. If a missile locks on, the aircraft can effectively make itself invisible, disappearing from radar screens in seconds. There are even rumors, though never officially confirmed, of laser-based interception systems in future models. Star Wars-style tech, but real enough to make potential attackers think twice. And Air Force One doesn't need to land if things go south. It's equipped for mid-air refueling, allowing it to stay airborne for days if necessary. Imagine a self-sustaining command center floating above a crisis, running the country from 45,000 feet. Inside, the security doesn't stop with hardware. The communications suite on board is one of the most advanced in existence. Everything is encrypted, from phone calls to video conferences with global leaders. During 9/11, President George W. Bush used that very system to communicate with the Pentagon and address the nation while the skies below were in chaos. It's not flashy or cinematic like the movies. No hidden gun compartments or secret trapdoors, just layers of silent, unseen technology. The kind that protects not just the person on board, but the continuity of government itself. Myths, movies, and misconceptions. For decades, Hollywood has painted Air Force One as a mix between a luxury suite and a superhero's jet. But the truth is both more practical and far more impressive. First off, there's no escape pod hidden under the president's desk, sorry, Harrison Ford fans. That's pure movie magic. And there aren't secret weapons stashed behind the walls, or soldiers dropping from hidden hatches. Security on Air Force One comes from people, the pilots, the Secret Service, and the layers of planning that go into every trip. Before each flight, advanced teams spend weeks, sometimes months, prepping every detail. Cargo planes fly ahead carrying the president's armored limousine, known as the Beast, along with motorcade vehicles and backup supplies. Local hospitals are contacted, routes are rehearsed, and backup aircraft are on standby. It's a global ballet of logistics and coordination, all so the president can travel safely for just a few hours. Then there's the crew. Air Force One's pilots belong to the 89th Airlift Wing, an elite group based at Joint Base Andrews. They're the best of the best, hand-picked, highly trained, and often serving multiple presidents throughout their careers. Every mission is treated like a military operation. And while the plane's interior might look luxurious, it's not about comfort. It's about control. The seats are functional, the decor timeless, the design efficient. It's a working office, not a flying palace. Still, myths persist because, honestly, it's hard not to imagine what secrets a plane like this might hold. And maybe that's part of its charm. Air Force One is both transparent and mysterious, public yet untouchable. It's one of the few machines on Earth that can feel both human and legendary at the same time. The next generation. The Air Force One we know today has served 6 presidents, but even legends need an upgrade. The 2 current 747-200Bs, tail numbers 28000 and 29000, entered service in the early 1990s. Decades later, they're still powerful. But the world has changed faster than their systems have. Cybersecurity threats, hypersonic missiles, and digital warfare. These are challenges that the next Air Force One must be built for. And so, deep inside Boeing's facilities, a new generation is taking shape, the VC-25B. This next version will carry over the same unmistakable look, but everything under the skin will be different. Advanced digital defense systems, modern avionics, lighter composite materials, and a completely reworked communications suite capable of handling real-time global data streams. The engines will be more efficient, the shielding stronger, and the onboard technology nearly future-proof. The project has faced its share of setbacks, supply chain issues, political debates, and even strange headlines, like reports of a worker found sleeping inside the unfinished aircraft. But despite delays, the first VC-25B is expected to enter service around 2027, ushering in a new era of presidential aviation. And yet, even as the technology evolves, the symbolism stays the same, because Air Force One has never been just about luxury or flight. It's about presence, the unmistakable signal that the leader of the free world is on board. From Roosevelt's flying boat to Kennedy's polished 707, from Nixon's farewell wave to Biden's secret flight into a war zone, every president leaves a chapter written in its logbook. And somewhere, high above the clouds, history keeps cruising at 600 miles per hour,